I'll call this Board of Aldermen meeting to order. If you'd please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, I have a roll call, please.
Alderman Bowman.
Present.
Alderman Bachman. Here. Alderman Reed.
Here.
Alderman Milner.
Here.
Alderman Dickerson.
Here.
Alderman Long.
Here.
Alderman Turner.
Here.
Mayor Hassick.
Here, and we do have a quorum. Good evening, everyone. We actually do have a ceremonial matter tonight. It was kind of a last-minute thing. If you've been paying attention, our Harrisonville boys soccer team has made it to the state championships. If you all would like to join me up here right now. In honor of that, we'd like to read a proclamation for the soccer team. Quite the accomplishment, I think, to get here. Just going to have to file right up here if you want to. It's okay, before I read this, let's have some details. Who are we playing?
Washington.
Washington.
Semifinals, yes.
How good is Washington?
We don't know.
You don't know.
About to find out.
And this is played in
St. Louis.
St. Louis. All right. All right. If you win that, how far does that? Do you have another game after
We
that?
have a game, semifinals is Friday, and then if we win, we play in the championship Saturday. If we lose, then we play in third place game Saturday.
So either way, you play two games, and we hope it's win-win and nothing less, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, that's just incredible, guys, and I want to congratulate you on that. I'm going to read this now. Whereas the City of Harrisonville, the Mayor and the Board of Aldermen wish to congratulate the Wildcat boys soccer team and their coaches on their highly successful 2017 season, during which they compiled a record of 25 wins and 3 losses. And whereas the Wildcats have set the school record for wins in a season and are the first boys soccer team to qualify for state in school history. And whereas in addition to winning the Oak Park and Smithville tournaments, the team is also the 2017 MRVC Conference Champions and District Champions. And whereas on Saturday, the Wildcats earned a trip to the State Soccer Championship to be played at the Worldwide Technology Soccer Park in Fenton starting Friday, November 10th. And whereas players include JT Overturf, Brody Pitts, Evan Filer, Craig Ward, Dalton Schrock, Kobe Norris, Brendan Travis, Jack Deviney, Seth Wybush, I hope I got that right, Devin Schrock, Colin Bletlinger, there we go, Jonathan, is it Buger? Berger, okay, Monty Schroeder, Dalton Lawson, Tyler Falkenberg, Alex Bearden, Carson Sasonis, Ben Riffle, Ashton Gray, Johnny Barnett, Ethan Cole, Logan Johnson, and Marquise Schrock. And whereas the team is coached by Dan Coleman, Debbie Brandenborough, and Ryan Schleen. Now therefore, on behalf of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, I, Mayor Brian Hessig, hereby congratulate these fine young men and their coaches on their winning season and wish them continued success during the championship playoffs and throughout the school year. You'd like to hold on to that, we'll snap it, kind of huddle in here and snap a little picture here.
Okay, guys, looking good. Give us 1, 2, 3, smile. One more time, nice smile. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, no matter what happens, you're always going to be winners with us, so congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
Not bad on short notice there.
That's right, great job. That's the way I like to start a meeting. Wish I could do that every meeting. All right. We have no further ceremonial matters today, so at this time I'll open the floor to public participation. Anybody who has anything to bring before this board that is not on our already scheduled agenda, please feel free to step forward. Seeing no one, I will close public participation and we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. First, before you, you have the minutes from the work session of October 16th, 2017.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Miller. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, you have the minutes from the regular meeting of October 16th, 2017.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion from Alderman Turner and a second from Alderman Dickerson. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Moving on to our agenda items. First item tonight is the BZA notification process. Mr. Welch.
When somebody comes before the Board of Zoning Adjustment, they have to put in a filing fee, and they're required to send out notifications to property owners within 200 feet of their property to notify them of this request that they've made of the BZA. They also have to put an ad in the paper public record. We had an individual come in, Marshall Lightcap, who could not afford to do the BZA application fee, so the board waived that. She received some help from a resident, Clint Miller, to design how the carport would go on the lot. So one of the other requirements is to do the notifications of the residents. And Alderman Reese has been working on that. She feels that we've given a waiver for the fee for the Board of Adjustment hearing, and that there are 17 residences that are near her property, and by requiring that or that the property owner has to send those by certified mail, and that's 670 something?
$695, to be a total of $48.65.
Okay. So there are those, it's almost $7 for each one of those to send out. And Alderman Reese is questioning whether we should, we can waive that, whether we want to look at doing something different, or if we are going to require that that be done. So that's standard practice, that's on the application. I gave you a copy of that. So it's up to the board whether they want to waive that or not. If there's an alternate method, such as going, having Alderman Reese go door to door, not really door to door, but property owner to property owner, and have that person sign off that they received the notification. We need to receive something because we do not send it out ourselves. So we have to receive some sort of feedback to say that it has been received.
Thank you. We're close. Happy, we're close. As I went through this document right here, I don't know if everybody's got one of those or not, but it gives you all of the specifications and things that you have to do in order to get a variance. And the first thing, of course, you have to do is get a legal. It's surprising to me when you go through that just how much there is to do for an individual. And at any rate, the first thing you have to do is write a legal description. Well, most little old ladies next door, my mom's next door, if I asked her to write a legal description of her house, she wouldn't know where to begin. So that's one stumbling block right there. I think that we have taken care of that. The city's been very helpful. The next thing they have to know all about zoning, and that's also something that they have to write down, that this lady would have to write down. She got to figure out somewhere how to get that information. She probably doesn't have any idea what zone she's in. The next thing is, as I read through this application for variance, if you go through it, it's really pretty much meant for businesses. For example, the first request on there says, can the subject property yield a reasonable return if used under the regulations governing the zoning district in which it is located? Well, obviously, that's a business kind of thing. That's not a lady kind of thing. I mean, an individual kind of thing. At any rate, it goes on. There was the $50 filing fee, which the board was generous, and I appreciate that for her, to withhold or to waive. A site plan had to be written to scale, And Mr. Miller was kind enough, I believe, to do that. Thank you very much. That would have been very, very costly to have had her hire someone to do that. And I got to see that drawing, and it's very good, by the way. Thank you. The certified letters, right at $50. The letter of notice for public hearing, I don't want that to be discarded. That's not my purpose. My question to the board is there another way we can do it besides charging her $7 a pack for 17 of them? I'm not real sure. I know you and I had talked about this, Happy, about where 200 feet went. One of those residents that's on that list is next door to me. That's gotta be more than 200 feet. That's like 2 blocks away. So, I don't know how that's figured, but there's a lot of those. The letter of notice for public hearing, back to this rule. You had told me, I believe, that the city made that rule. That wasn't a state or a county, or that the city actually, so the people that were on this board were the ones that designed that rule to begin with. And so I guess my question is isn't there some way that we could get, if not me, somebody else that would take the letter and go to the individual homeowners and ask them to sign it, and I would bring it back, or somebody else would bring it back, whoever you trust. I don't care.
I'd start with asking Mr. Fairfield about any legal issues surrounding this.
I think you have to notify the neighbors. I think there'll be a problem if you don't
absolutely.
notify the neighbors.
Yeah,
I think you could change your policy to allow personal delivery as opposed to certified mail with some sort of record to show that the individuals had been notified. So I think you can change your policy. I'm not, at least let me say, I'm not aware of a code requirement that requires, are you happy? And I'm not aware of state statute that requires it that way. But once you set up a process
right.
where notification of the neighbors is required, then the neighbors, they have a right to believe that that'll be followed if something would happen in the area. So I think you have to have some sort of notification process.
Absolutely, I agree with that. That was one thing that I probably didn't make clear. I had no intention of changing the rule, just simply seeing if this one time we couldn't have some person do it rather than
And I can tell you that, for example, I represented a convenience store in Kansas City. They have a similar notification with regards to liquor license. And we actually physically went out and had individuals sign off, basically waiving their objection to the change, which I think would be a fine addition to the policy, because it would give an alternative to residents, an easy way to do that. It's a little more legwork, but if cost of mailing the letters is a problem, I think actual notification is always better than certified mail. A lot of people don't pick it up anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be a trick, because some of these people live in surrounding towns. This is a lot of rental property, but I'm willing to do that. Okay, second thing, the very last thing on my list is the letter of notice for public hearing. There's only 2 papers that are listed here. One is the Democrat Missourian, and one is the Journal. Where is the Journal? Is that Raymore? Or Pleasant Hill? Or Raymore? Raymore, okay. I have no idea how much it costs to put a letter in the paper. Thank you, Morris. I've seen that Mr. Colbert has an idea of how much. Do you have any idea how much they are?
Probably a couple $100.
Okay. I was thinking 150, so that doesn't surprise me. Is there any way that we can put it in a different paper that wouldn't charge as much?
The reason we have to put it in that paper is it's a paper of public record, and it's considered that. And I don't think it's that much. I think it is probably between $40 and $70. I think most of the ads we've put in have been about $48,
I'd be
$58.
surprised if it was $200. That would shock me.
If you put it in the Kansas City Star, yes, it will be that much, but in the Journal, it shouldn't be that much.
Okay, and whose rule is that? Is that state, is it county, is it?
That, I believe, has been decided in the courts, that you have to advertise it.
Well, I
for the public.
understand that, it's your which paper.
got some.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think that,
I don't know specifically, but in every other jurisdiction I'm aware of, there is some notice by publication required.
Right, and I understand that. Part I'm
How about we ask Dennis how much he would charge to put a notice in the paper?
We're not legal.
it has to be, that's why I'm saying the paper record, which is what's in our,
I
we
put
have listed.
2 public notices in 2 weeks ago. One was $20.88 and one was $186.
Do you know
In the
why the
Democrat.
difference?
Nope, I never could get an answer for that. All I got was the bill.
Okay, I thank you very much.
But if it's not a very big one, I wouldn't think it would be near as
Well,
much.
apparently you have to put, I mean, this letter is pretty lengthy that you have to put in there. It's like a full page. So basically, we're down to $160 for this letter, or maybe. Okay, well,
Is the board okay then with that type of notification where she delivers it by hand and gets signatures?
Happy, is that codified or has that just been policy?
That's just policy.
Well, I think the purpose of this discussion was notified with this policy, so I think the board could decide to change the policy.
What?
I don't see that as, at least with respect to hand delivery
Right.
versus certified mail.
Okay, the way I see this, the way I thought about this earlier, not knowing what the, if this was simple, I knew it was something we had, but where we were going with it. If you're going to do something like this, it gets back to the discussion we've had on a lot of things where you're looking at somebody asking for assistance of some type, a break, I guess you could say, is how do you decide who gets it, who doesn't get it, and in this case, I think you would have to do nothing short of amending the policy, so everybody would have the ability to do this same thing, because if you do it for one person, and then the next person has to do notifications, they're gonna be, well, why don't I get that same thing, so that's,
It's gonna be too complicated to amend that policy in a meeting like this. We can't just decide, then who goes around? And then if we amend the policy on the next one, who goes around?
you be sure you use your microphone.
Alderman, I'm not sure you'd have to necessarily designate a person as a required just permit that individuals could waive, could sign a notarized statement, it probably should be notarized, or witnessed. You could decide to have a witness, I suppose, that they had no objection or waived any objection or something to that effect.
That would be signed by the person getting the notice.
That would be signed by the homeowner who's within the area, so someone would have to bring them a pre-prepared
I know
document.
exactly where that's gonna do. Most of them are gonna say, I'm not doing it, slam the door in your face, get out of here. Then how do you prove that you talked to them?
Well, talking to them isn't enough. If they don't sign, then certified mail or some sort of other notice is required.
Okay, now certified mail is a legal notice, isn't it?
Right, but that's already provided for. I think what Alderwoman Reese is looking is to provide an alternative just in case it works.
Well, and I see what he's saying, is say you do go to some of these people and they refuse to sign anything, you're stuck,
then you have to
I guess
send
you're
it.
stuck holding the bag of,
Yeah.
you still have to send them.
You know how long
Yeah.
that's gonna take? That's gonna take forever.
You know how long all this has taken so far? Long time, she still doesn't have that carport.
No.
Question, I thought I heard you say you'd have to, I thought I heard Alderman Bachman say that you'd have to take all these papers for them to sign. When you send registered mail, isn't all they're doing is signing to say, I have received this?
Yeah, but they actually have the letter.
But there's a letter explaining what they're actually getting notified of.
Right.
So there would be some sort of letter enclosed in the certified mail, and they would just sign that they'd received it. And then the individual then typically has a copy of the letter that went out with all the certified mailing receipts attached to it.
Mhm.
Now, if you did it the way you're describing with hand delivery, you would probably have to prepare, and what I see in most jurisdictions, individual you'd have a document in blank, and you'd walk out and put the homeowner's name in. The city could identify who all the homeowners are and what addresses are involved. Typically,
They've done that for me.
the jurisdiction that has the requirement does that. And then you fill in all, whoever the person that wants to get this done, fills it in, goes out, gets it, somebody, the homeowner to sign it, notarize it, or you could provide, I suppose, 2 witnesses or something like that. And then once you turn in, if you, let's say there's 15 and you get 8 back that waive it, then maybe that's enough. You decide what percentage you need. Do you need unanimous? Do you need a supermajority? Do you just need a simple majority?
Well, it's not a majority that you're looking for, it's just a notify. And I'm not sure if you need the notarization, because all you need to do is just hand them that notice saying, here's the hearing that's coming up. You received it, and then you have proof by them signing off that you've received that.
I suppose that's another way you could do it.
What if they refuse to sign that? I mean, again, it's back
But
to.
what would be any different if they didn't go pick up their thing in the mail either? I mean, I guess.
Where's the proof, where's the proof, you
Yeah.
don't have the, that's the problem, you
Yeah.
don't have the mail, like he said, is a legal, that card you get is a legal document in itself. You have a card, you know, she would have a
If
card.
someone's home signed.
Even if they didn't sign it, she can say, well, I have this, it shows my copy of the receipt that shows I sent it. So, that's where the problem comes up, is if everybody signs it, yeah, it'd be great, I mean, you've done it, everybody admits to it, but what happens when one person, which you just never know, some people, I can think of a few people run through my mind, and definitely, they probably didn't answer the door for you. I mean, I'm not saying in your neighborhood that's the case, but we all know people around town that they won't even answer the doors for you, so.
But if you serve the notices, then does it come down to who shows up at the
That's
hearing?
exactly it.
Nobody,
Yeah.
you know, they may not, any of them, do anything about the letter, they may be against it, but if they don't come and speak against it, then it passes anyway.
My only concern with either witnesses or notification is how do you prove that the person actually received it? When you do a certified mailing, the person shows up at the post office, produces identification, and they sign, and that's stamped. So there's some certification that the person that was supposed to receive it actually signed it. If you just say that folks just have to sign for receipt without witness or notarization, I'm not saying this person would do that, but someone could just go out and fill in everybody's name, or have different people sign so the signatures look different, and maybe they were delivered and maybe they weren't. So that's a potential issue with that.
Well, then what if that happens and the person comes that doesn't like it and says, well, I was never notified, then what do you do? I mean, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Possibly the biggest issue is not finding them. How do you give somebody a notice if you can't find them?
I mean, okay, so what I'm hearing is, okay, you could do the personal notification, but say you go out and there's, in this case, there's 17, you go to all 17 and 10 of them sign it and 7 don't. Are you left just sending out 7 letters at that point to the 7 that did not?
I think that's your choice.
And so
You could say a combination of the 2 notifications
in order to do
was
that,
adequate.
but in order to do that, we need to amend the policy, which I agree, I don't think we can
Well,
quite.
what would happen if you sent the 17 letters out and you couldn't find them to sign them?
It's a legal notice. It doesn't matter. That's
You can prove you mailed
it.
Yeah.
You can prove you sent it.
You get that little card or whatever that they have to sign when
If they don't sign it, it's
Yeah.
up to them.
Because a government agency, the post office, is
Okay,
considered
so
an
let's say
official
that there's
government
17 and I get 10 signatures, then can't we send 7 letters?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that would be the case. I was making sure I was clarifying how that
Yeah,
would work.
Okay.
But you still have to have
I
the
think that's
policy,
reasonable.
you'd have to have the policy changed.
So here's the problem with that. You go out and try to find them, it's gonna take you a while. And then you go say, I got these, then you send the certified letters out. It's gonna be February, March, April before she gets this thing done, and she needs it done now.
She needed it done 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she just clinched it in her.
If somebody's had a court
She's
case,
really-
somebody press charges against it. The
And so we're
mail
trying to
is
push
a
it
legal
the best way it can.
binding thing that you can try to contact.
Save and
She has paper with their name on them.
Now, hey, one conversation, guys.
turn it in for money.
One conversation here.
Countless this woman has
There's no, well, okay, I agree with you. The thing of it is with certified mail, that's a legal thing. You get your receipt, you've got it, you've tried to contact them, whatever happens then. And that's why I'm asking him, if it's a piece of paper with just names and addresses, how would that stand up in court if somebody wanted to challenge it? That's what I'm trying to say.
That's why I was recommending that you'd have individual sheets of paper that would either be witnessed or notarized. So the
Not that
signature,
that's gonna happen.
So-
We're probably overthinking.
So so at this point, to even do this, I mean, if we wanna change the policy, it's gonna be something that obviously we're gonna have to look at and make sure we've got, like I say, that what we have is going to work legitimately, which is not something we can whip up on the fly. And so we're back to the, she needs a notification sent, she's looking for help sending the notifications. I'm getting,
Happy. Where, do you know what chapter, what provision that the, notices have to be sent within 200 feet of the property owner?
That's your policy.
Can
I know, I mean.
I've got the city ordinance pulled up.
well,
Right, the city
that's-
ordinance is copied off.
It doesn't say legal paper, it says paper of general circulation. It actually does call out that they have to be mailed in the
Right.
ordinance. It doesn't say certified mail, it says must be mailed. So whatever your legal definitions do with that.
So, where's that in the ordinance?
you wouldn't be able to prove you mailed something without a certified, I mean,
Right.
I guess you don't have to send it, but what do you show? You're gonna have a hard time proving you mailed
It
it.
is section
Like certified mail.
430.040,
It does say that.
and it's,
It says certified mail.
I'm sure that's,
430 doc.
sure that's not a different group. I think Board of Zoning Adjustment was 405-620.
Yeah.
430.1, urban redevelopment regulations.
No, that's different. Urban redevelopment is chapter 430. That's a different chapter.
Oh,
Yeah, we're talking about Board of Adjustment, Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Board of zoning, but
So I'll muddy the waters just a little bit more. Where I've worked before, the cities took the application fee, advertised and sent letters. First class mail only. We did not send certified. But the city then verified everything that was done through the city. We did it ourselves.
With the fee,
With
you
the
paid for that?
The fee paid for everything.
Mhm.
So there's not a requirement that you send it by certified mail. It's just what this city has established, that they want to get that kind of information back.
But, I mean, I'm just trying to find out where it says 200 feet of the subject property.
Again, that's your,
It's not code.
no, it's not, but that's what you do. That's what the city has established as its policy, is to send it within 200 feet by certified mail.
You have to establish a policy of who you notify, I guess is what you're getting at, and that's what they set as the policy.
We adopted just notifying the adjacent property owners. So you didn't have to go 200 feet, but your P and Z requires 200 feet, and that is state statute. And I think the city just followed that amount and adopted that as policy.
Okay, so it changed.
Because we could change the 200 feet if we wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't think we can do it today, though. No.
No.
I'm just saying, I'm just thinking about.
That,
I
okay,
kinda like Happy's.
I
do too.
Well, okay.
We waive your fee.
okay, so as far as tonight goes, we don't have the magic wand to make all this change tonight. So the discussion is about, is there something that can be done tonight that will help this woman? Because I know she's been waiting to get this done. We've all commented, obviously, we all remember the gentleman came and spoke on her behalf. She's not able to come do these things, so the carport is a needed thing. What could be done tonight if everybody's in favor of wanting to modify the policy, then I would not see an issue with trying to come up with a solution tonight, but I don't know that you can do, again, the door-to-door is not gonna work, we have to have a procedure, so obviously we can't say, yeah, we'll do that tonight and that will fix the problem, so.
How much more money this should be?
Well, I know that she's saved her money for a couple of years in the carport, and I have not gotten into that cost of it.
No, I'm not talking about the carport.
Oh, you
I'm
just
talking
mean
about-
for this?
Yeah.
She needs enough
Just for
for, sending the letters, the registered letters, and enough for putting the advertisement in. And I should have checked that today, and I did, I forgot, I'm sorry.
I suppose one simple thing to follow up on what Happy said, you could permit a mailing that from the city, so you would have a government agency verify that the mailing occurred by ordinary mail rather than certified. That would be one thing you could do tonight as an alternative. And I would think you probably ought to stay within the 200 feet for the time being until you make a full policy, look at, evaluate a full policy change, but you could make that one policy change, I would think easily tonight, that would allow things to go fairly quickly, with at least regards to the notifications.
That was
Would that then have to flow through to everybody that asks?
Yes, yes, it would be a policy change that in the alternative, that instead of certified mail, it would be a mailing by the city by ordinary mail.
Ordinary mail, I think, would be fine if a disinterested third party would do it.
That's
Which
why
would
this,
be the city.
which would be the city.
Yes.
Right,
Because
you're not
they have-
going, no, you should not have the individual do that. That would have to be a government agency, I think, as the disinterested party.
And they would have no reason to want to falsify that.
Exactly.
So if we do that, we need to look at what we're charging as a fee. Is that going to cover, I mean, obviously not in this situation, but when we make the policy change, if we say that that's the way we would want to do it, then we make sure the fee would cover, I mean, obviously mailing's a whole lot cheaper. It would make sure it covers that, which is a minimal cost. Make sure we're covering our cost for that.
Your highest cost is gonna be the ad.
Correct. Correct.
And then city in your town, city DDI also.
Yep, yeah.
And you have to have, was it, you said either or is it two different papers or only one?
No, just one.
Okay, so obviously from what I'm hearing, the Raymore Journal is much more reasonable to do
They'll
an
get it
ad.
more correct.
Hmm?
They'll get it correct.
So, okay,
Now,
so,
from what I understood our attorney to say, is this change that we make this evening applies to the mailings only, but not the paper.
Right.
Okay.
yeah, the newspaper would still have to be there. What we're saying is we'll allow for, I guess in the event tonight, we're allowing for mailing until, and then we need to actually update the policy to go along with this.
I think you'd have a resolution this evening to update the policy to permit mailing by the city by ordinary mail instead of certified mail.
And then we'd actually do a policy update.
Yes, but you would be
Okay.
voting by that
And that would
resolution
cover-
to change at
okay.
least that aspect of the policy.
Okay.
Now, I have a question.
Okay.
On that mailing, you just have to say that you mail it.
Well,
Now, if you want a certified letter, it takes them a long time to get that stuff back to you. And the reason I'm asking is that can be done fairly quickly. The Board of Zoning Adjustments meeting is the 14th. Is there time to do the notice in the paper and those letters?
Because notice in the paper had to be so many days before, am I right?
The letter should be done out
15
5
days.
days before the meeting. I think you define the number of days from the time that the city certifies, someone in the city certifies the mailing occurred. You can assume, in legal circles typically, and in the courts, they typically assume a 3-day mailing period. It could be 4 or 5 days, whatever you feel is appropriate. But at least 3 days, I think, is appropriate.
I see what you're getting at, because with the certifieds, there's that time span. You want to be sure to give time that they actually get it.
Well, it looks
And
like no matter what we do, it's not gonna happen in November. It's gonna
Correct.
be December.
Correct. Okay. All right. So does anybody have any further comments? Because I mean, it sounds like everybody's in favor of updating this policy. And they're in favor of going ahead and moving forward with something tonight, because we can actually, best we can do. Like you said, we're trying to move this as quickly, but best we can do. Alderman Turner, did you have something?
So the person is still responsible for drafting their own letter and everything? Do they provide the invoice to the city? What?
What do you
Do
want
we
to
do
do?
it all?
The city did it all.
You made the letter, which would ease the concern she has about the average person knowing what to send.
We drafted the letter, we wrote down the names of who we sent it to, and then just mail it out first class. Yeah, you give them 3 days to get there. If they show up, they show up. If they don't, that means usually they acquiesce when it comes to something the board of adjustment.
I would recommend that they allow the city to come up with a standardized type of letter to be mailed in these circumstances.
Okay.
There is in this application, there is a sample letter, which is fairly simple, so, just saying.
Okay, all right.
I make a motion that we redo our notification letters to have the city do it to all the neighbors within 200 feet of the project in question. How's that?
By ordinary mail.
By ordinary mail.
Okay,
Theirs is adjoining properties.
Adjoining property.
and we can do that piece as well. We'll adjust that tonight, or is that something that,
Hey, Brian, they're not paying for it anyway, what difference is it?
Well,
I mean, there's gonna be quite a few adjoining, might be half as many.
no, I'm just making sure that's okay, we modify that as well. I'm not opposed to it, I'm just asking if that's
It
okay.
seems to me that that might be the kind of thing you might want to have a public hearing about what's the appropriate distance. But as far as doing ordinary mail, I think that's just my suggestion, is that you come back and look at the policy.
We're gonna have to anyway,
Yeah.
obviously.
And in that process, you determine, well, maybe 100 feet or 150 feet. Is it from the front door, is it from the property line?
So
Those
as
types of
for,
things.
no, so as for tonight, is to just cover the mailings, which is the main issue.
I think we ought to leave that distance alone. Yeah.
Okay.
That's gonna need more discussion than we.
Yeah, that's fine, and that, we're solving the problem, which is getting the letter back, so.
You get all that, Randy?
Okay. Well, attorney, you got something,
I mean, I'm sure we'll decide it later, but, so, we just have a flat fee for.
well, we have,
Or
well,
so much per letter.
I have a motion first, and then do I have a second, then we can have a further discussion?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Alderman Dickerson, second from Alderman Turner. Your question was about the fee. We would have to do that when we adjust the policy. We already waived the fee in this case,
I think we would fee in this case.
so it's not applicable.
It's,
And that's what I was telling Happy, is we want to be sure we review that the fee is going to cover our mailing costs, and we can discuss how that.
we ought to bring back some ideas to community development committee and decide how we want to proceed from there and give it to the board.
All right, so I have the motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Turner to change the policy, resolution to change the policy, so to allow for standard mailing by the city and on Board of Zoning Adjustments. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, this is gonna throw my numbers off, where's my sheet? This will become Resolution R040. I gotta renumber all these. All right, moving on, delinquent business licenses. Marcella, I think that's your. Water in this word. She didn't get it.
I take my coat off, sorry.
Yeah, the space heaters are working fabulous. The furnace is not working right in here. That's why we have space heaters, so thankfully it is warm in here. Yeah, that's right.
Good evening. The city issues business licenses, those are renewed annually. Those renewals are due August the 31st. The city grants a grace period of 30 days for the month of September to pay without penalty, and then you're charged a 10% penalty. Generally, most of the business licenses are $30, so that's a $3 fee if you choose not to renew it until after the 1st of October. So Tammy Jonas, our collector, has done a great job this year of trying to get renewals out, and she has provided with you a letter kind of requesting how we should follow or impose our policies for this violation, because businesses have chosen not to renew their licenses. And so in here it talks about the Board of Aldermen is to hear, have a hearing, for revocation or suspension because a business has not chosen to renew their license. And so we're looking for some direction on how you want to do that. If you want us to schedule those, if you want us to go through, because we've sent letters, so we can send I've been told that at one time we had an officer would just run by the business and try to contact the owner or manager on staff and ask, it's like, do you realize that this is necessary? And at this point, it's come to our attention that it needs to be paid. And then this hearing process that's outlined in code, talks about how that's to be notified of the businesses, that it's to come before you all to have the authority to either suspend this license or revoke this license in this process. So that's kind of what we're looking for. It's outlined in here. I can go through that in a little more detail if you'd like me to. As far as, and we've been talking about policies and how we have to do notifications and 5 days notice, to the business owner, etc. I've not tied these back to know for sure if we are still collecting the sales tax from these businesses. That's a step that we could do to go through this process. So we're asking with this list, specifically with those brick and mortar businesses, because you've got home-based businesses or the direct sales businesses are harder to track. But if you've got a brick and mortar business that's chosen not to renew their business license, at least we can go to them and ask them, or we can send a letter stating that we've scheduled this hearing before the governing body, because you've chosen not to renew your license. So how would you like for us to proceed with this process?
I mean, because there's still several on here that I know are no longer in business.
Oh, I'm sure there's quite a
Florals,
few.
Body Top Press is still in the burned out part. Printer Folk is gone.
Commerce Bank.
Well, I guess-
It's moved out of state, so.
So those again, so if we go back and we tie brick and mortar, we know you're here, you pay a utility bill, we can double check and make sure that you're still paying your sales taxes, because that's part of this process. You have to provide a no tax due, which means that you've paid all of your state and local taxes, all of your employment taxes, as well as your sales taxes. The state of Missouri has to issue a letter to us that says that you do not owe the state of Missouri any taxes, so we, assured that we're collecting the taxes, that our citizens rely on for services. And so at least we can notify those people that this is subject to hearing, and that the next step would be to schedule a hearing if you choose not to renew your license at this point. Some of them, there's one particular one that's gone 2 years that is what do I say? It's a higher fee because of the type of business that they do. So they would owe us for 2 years worth of businesses. And it even talks about the fines.
Are these mostly $30, is that what you said?
Most of them are 30. There's a couple of them that are more than that.
So, okay, so there's, just asking Happy because I didn't do the count, roughly 72 on this list. As Alderman Miller pointed out, I agree, there's several that I'm sure are no longer doing business, so say you knock off 10 or 12, I don't know if that would be a good number or not. So you're saying we would send a notice to them we're having a hearing, and I wonder how many of these would immediately, how many do you think would come up here? I mean, what I'm thinking is we send notices out. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying they don't need to have a business license, they don't need to pay the fee. I mean, the people that are doing it right, people should be doing what's required, but you also don't want it to, oh my gosh, here comes the big bad city
Right.
threatening to shut me down if I don't do this. But you did say there's penalties with all these or some of these?
Right. There's a $3 penalty just to renew your business license. If they run through this non-compliance and they're cited, it's actually a misdemeanor, and there is fines outlined in here of anywhere from $100, but not more than $500 for each offense, and those become daily offenses. So if we get to that point, those could be pretty hefty fines that are being imposed, or that we're trying to impose on the businesses. And again, I'm not, I'm like you, I don't want to come along and
No, I
say,
know, yeah, no.
but the fact that we've chosen to not do anything at all, we need to change.
Look where we're at, right.
And
I see Mr. Fairfield lowering his microphone, so I'm curious what his,
Well, I'm looking at the non-compliance or violation. I mean, it doesn't make it permissive, it makes it mandatory that violation shall be a misdemeanor. So if someone fails to have a license that's supposed to have a license, I'm assuming I haven't read the whole thing, there should already be a charge.
Right.
It's not a charge after the city's had a hearing. If they fail to pay, there's a charge and it's up to the court. You essentially have two processes. You have a civil process and you have potentially, you've made it a criminal process apparently, to not file. And those aren't, they can relate to one another, but they're not necessarily work together. You could be civilly fined and not criminally fined. The court could decide not to. But it sounds like it goes to the court. If you fail to pay, the prosecutor should be notified that you have individuals that have violated the ordinance.
So we have the, okay. Well,
That's what it says there.
what's running through my head is thinking, okay, we have these businesses we'd have to notify. And we're saying we haven't done anything.
Short of sending them a letter of
Okay,
delinquency.
okay,
you know,
send a
at
letter
this
of
point.
delinquency, we haven't really done any more follow-up, and I'm throwing this out there, and it could be, I'm off track. But what was running through my mind is, do we offer to waive any penalties? All you gotta do is pay your fee if they come before we have the hearing. Like an incentive to get your license paid. If you show up here, you're, not only you at the hearing, you're subject to the fees. Just a suggestion. You know, I don't know, I mean, this is a lot of notices to send out.
Right.
How much do we make on those? So you have any idea?
Or what the fee is for a license.
It's $30 per license.
So I mean, how many do we have?
About 72, so we're about $2,100.
That's for the whole
It's-
town?
No, that's delinquent.
Those are the
That's
delinquent ones,
Oh,
right?
what we
I
make.
mean, what do you collect on the whole thing for the whole town?
Well, it depends on how many businesses there are total.
We have 300 over 300 businesses, $50 each, but it depends on the business too.
Right, because each, you know,
There's different fees.
a pawn shop has a significantly higher business license fee than the retail shop does, or the restaurant. You know, the restaurant has liquor added to it, and that helps, because when you know, it's like, at that point, it's like you have to buy your liquor license and you have to renew your business license.
And I'm not suggesting waive what they pay, what I'm saying is the penalty, right now they're gonna pay $30 and then we're gonna, $3 more penalty is just simply
So
saying,
you want to increase the penalty?
no, I'm saying take away the penalty if they paid before. The way I'm understanding this is we have to have a hearing of some type now if they're delinquent. They have to come, we may have a hearing for them to come here to say, pay this, or, in which, like you said, I don't know, we wanna
What
march.
about a warning letter telling them to turn it over to the prosecutor?
And that's what we're asking, is how far do you want us to take this? Because, again, we don't want to, you know, seem like that we're just gonna come along and say, here, this is like it or lump it, so to speak, you know.
I mean, it's a matter of, I believe they need to update their license, everybody, I mean, there's 300 plus businesses and 70 of them, granted, let's say 60 if you knock off 10 are not paying theirs. They should have to carry one. I mean, if, you know, Alden Long's got a business, I'm sure you can see his name on this list, he pays his.
I paid my late fee though.
Somebody,
Thanks, Clint.
Well, I'm just
Alderman
saying, but I mean, I'll grab the.
let me rewind, let's edit that. I didn't say that.
And I mean,
Yeah.
you
No,
know,
but-
I have no idea why these people haven't, but, I mean, I can tell you from my perspective, used to, my wife would always mail our sales tax once a month. And it's just like, every single year, it would get put on someone's desk, and it doesn't matter what day it posts or whatever, it would never ever get there on the time that it's supposed to. So then there would be a penalty or something stupid like that. So then we would be calling, you know, Rebecca would, you know, get on there and you know, do everything she could, you know, one day error or whatever. Well, then we started doing it online. So we did it this last year online, and it still did not post. It came out of my bank account, and it still did not post that we did not owe sales tax for 3 weeks.
So you couldn't get your letter to bring.
I could not get my
somebody
letter
else
to come here, and,
Which-
and it came out of my bank account. Because I was gonna bring my bank account or my checking deal up here and show, but I was like, $3, who cares, just go pay it, Rebecca. But I will say this, like before I was an alderman and we were mailing them, I called up here on a Friday and the deadline was that day, and I was freaked out because it hadn't posted. And we called, you know, the sales tax people, and they said, well, you know, our computers, you know, one computer doesn't talk to the other computer, and it can sit in someone's cuticle for, you know, 2 weeks, and, you know, whenever the next person grabs it and opens it up, they don't pay attention to what, you know, what postmark it is. They just put it in there that it's paid, so then you got a late fee of $17 and blah, 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 so then you gotta pay that. Well, I called up here to the city and told them what had happened, that we was waiting and that, you know, we sent it, and they told me that if I did not pay it, that they would come close my business down that Friday. So, and I mean, all this stuff started, but I mean, this was back in like the first, when it was first due or whatever, before the late fees or whatever. I was scared to death that they were gonna come shut me down, so my wife went ahead and paid it again on a Tuesday online, and we got our renewal slip that Friday, come up here, got our license, and Monday my check posted, so I had to pay twice. I mean, and then, to make a long story short, or short story or whatever, then we obviously had overpaid, so my wife figured out the difference, Dickie Humberg figured out the difference. My wife sent a check for the next month, but when she sent that check, the IRS said, well, you overpaid, so they'd send us a check back. So then we had a late fee, and they didn't even say anything about it. So then I ended up getting a lien put on my business, and I didn't even know anything about it for 9 months.
So we're gonna have, you know, did you have a question?
I do, thank you.
Okay.
Is it possible for staff to make a phone call to these businesses?
We've tried. We've called, we've sent notices, you know,
So
either we
you-
don't get an answer, or, oh, we'll be up. No,
I think
They
that's
choose
why
not
they're
to.
before us now, is because they've kind of exhausted their,
right, that's the reason why.
short
it's
of, short
too
of
long.
going and yanking their,
Right,
sending somebody down there and yanking and closing it down, which that'll make us
which
real
really
popular.
doesn't tell us that we can do this, or at least I'm not. You know,
Well,
They told me they could.
Well,
That's sales tax, what you're talking about.
no,
Talking about business
well,
license.
he didn't have his business license, and he was
Because
saying
he
you needed to
didn't
have his
get
business
sales tax.
license. Sales taxes, you'd have to be several months late on your sales tax.
Yeah, I wasn't
For that.
Yeah, no. it
Being
wasn't- it
1
wasn't
month
free.
late isn't gonna close your business down. Alderman Turner, did you have a?
And there's nonprofits on there which are no fee.
Right,
So, so there would be no late
there's no
charge.
fee for the nonprofit,
And
but
there'd
that
be no late
doesn't
charge either.
necessarily require you to not come get your business license to show to your patrons that you've done everything that you're supposed to do, even as a nonprofit.
I kind of like the idea of the letter going out about it, going to be,
A hearing?
yeah.
Hearing.
I
Well-
like that, and then, see how many people you get, and then if there's still a few left,
I mean, I have a
have
feeling.
one of the officers go out.
I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of them, that when they get a letter that says there's a hearing, that they're gonna be required to come here, they're not gonna wanna hassle with that. Like I said, what I was thinking is there something, obviously these late fees aren't that much, but do you put that in there that, if you get up here where, having this many, if you had 5 or 6, okay, obviously it'd be easy, you can send 5 or 6 of them a letter, you're hearing, you're gonna get, slapped with whatever, or it's a lot to deliver. 72, well, that's
Well,
all.
we're gonna have to go through and purge the list to make sure we've got those that are that have gone out of business that we don't.
Which, I mean, again, that could reduce the number, but, I mean, I agree with I think we need to, I think you're gonna get some if you send something, it's how do you do it and not, again, you always get the evil bad, the evil bad people, doing our jobs, but, like I said, people, there are businesses that are doing it, it's a requirement for doing business. We're simply enforcing the rules, we're not trying to be,
You're not trying to penalize them.
we're not trying to be hard on anybody, it's just enforcing the rules. I mean, it's kind of that's part of what you're here for, is to enforce the rules that are in place, so I have to be in favor of enforcing the rule, but is there anything, other than,
How about if the attorney and I try to come up with something based on what the current statute is, and just follow along with that, or find a way to maneuver through it, to get them notification, some serious notification, so they know that they need to get their business license. Eventually, it may come to the board, or it may not.
Maybe the penalty needs to be $3.
I like Marcella's idea about sending the letter with
Police officer,
no, sending the letter of
notification on the hearing.
the hearing. Yes, that's what I was trying to.
do we have that as part of what you all
And don't waive the
drafted?
fee. Just
Something that we
$3
have you all draft up that would be, include that you'll,
I think you'll get, I think yes.
I mean, we can outline this section of suspension and send a letter warning that, according to this code of, city of Harrisonville, you're in non-compliance and subject to these fines and suspension of your business license, unless you're in for renewal in what kind of a time frame between now and the end of December, now and December 15th, now and December 1st. Because it was due September 1st. It'll take a little bit of time, and with the holidays coming up, December 1st is not a realistic, that's not a realistic.
I honestly
to be
don't
quite
see that we
honest.
have any choice other than sending letters. It's not like we're making up a rule, it's what's there, and they haven't, you've been sending the letters if you're ignoring them.
Right. I mean, we just sent you a letter saying,
I don't
please renew your license.
I don't particularly want to have a hearing with 60-some businesses trying to sit in here, and we'll have them out the door, it'll feel like we're on, was it Wednesday night's court night, it'll feel like, Anderson up here, running them through, but, I think if they think they're gonna have to come to a public hearing, they're going to likely, if it's a business license, most of them is $30, sorry, you can write that off on your taxes. So, and I agree, if you and Mr. Fairfield come up with what to send and include that about the hearing.
Yeah.
The rest of the board, okay with that? Do we need to vote or anything on that, or just simply next the?
I think it's within the authority that you already have.
Okay, all right, so unless somebody objects, I think that would be the way to go, and, okay.
Okay.
All right, I think you're still on deck. You have a report on the Highway 71/49, 291 TD. Where's that new?
No.
Okay.
You get to listen to me a little bit longer.
Okay.
Alderman Bowman had requested an update. And so an update is to be provided to the entire board on the 71-291 TD in reference to the monies that the city agreed to provide for phase 2 of the project. And so in this, I've attempted to outline what was originally planned, and I only cited those things that we've actually had advanced money for. So, for example, in the staff report, it talks about the design costs, and in that agreement, it said that the city would cover the design costs for phase 2. That was projected at $425,000. To date, which was the last payment we made to Trans Systems was in June, we've paid $359,984.79. The same way with the right-of-way acquisition costs. Those were estimated at $472,000. We had sent advance a MoDOT deposit of $300,000. And then the only other monies that the city had provided to in reference to phase 2 was for the construction deposit, that MoDOT required a $500,000 construction deposit. The city paid $18,084.73 of that. So between those three numbers, that 359, the 300, and that $18,000, you have a total advance of $678,069. Okay, so that's how much money that the city has advanced to the TDD since 2015 when this agreement was instated.
Okay, when you say advance, it means money that we expect to get back. It's not money that we had said we would pay.
Correct.
Our making sure that people understand.
Correct.
Good
And
enough.
so, in that agreement, it states very specifically that this money is provided to the TDD in order to complete this project with a repayment at 6% interest, you know, with monies available from the surplus funds in the TDD, okay? The surplus funds in the TDD is the total sales tax less their debt, because as a government entity, they were allowed to issue bonds, okay? So they've issued bonds to complete this project under the Transportation Development Organization. So the sales tax that they collect over there has to make that bond payment first. That's like your first mortgage. You have to do that before you can do anything else. Any monies over and above that is what they call surplus monies. And so those surplus monies is what's used to repay us, do other project improvements in the area, i.e. I think RP Lumber has slated to do an improvement to their entrance off of Plaza Road. Thank you. And so those surplus monies are available to do that, as well as some other technical pieces of project money that's available out of those bonds. So it was asked, how much money has the city advanced? It's $678,069.52. In that, in 2016, we received an interest-only payment of $17,950.52. And for 2017, when I sent that total over, we received $239,812.77. Of that, $39,684.60 is interest only that you gained on that money. And then $200,000 that was recorded in the electric fund has been paid back. We've talked about that several times, so that $200,000 paid the electric fund, so that electric has no money due to it anymore. And the remaining monies is due to general fund. So that
77?
Yep.
941.34?
Correct. Is what, thank you, is what's still due, and that shows up as due from them in general fund. So if you think about that $477,000, and we don't have to give them any more money, which right now we don't know that we have to give them any more money, we don't have any more money planned, you know, that would be paid back to us. You know, if we're gonna get $200,000 a year, that's gonna be paid back in the next 2 years, so it would be paid back in 19, would be the last payment. So the TDD sales tax money is exceeding their original projections, so they're actually anticipating also to pay off bonds early as well. Once they get all these projects done, they get us paid back for these pieces that we've done for that entity, then they're looking to start using their extra monies to pay down debt quicker.
So we booked that 200,000 of that 128.17 we booked directly into the
Electric fund.
fund at that time,
Yes, sir.
which, so we received this was after our discussion about needing to pay that back, so that's why we went ahead and just said, let's plug it right there to,
Correct.
okay. Which I think is the right thing to do, because obviously that's the fund, should have never advanced it in the first place, so we need to put it back there. So,
Exactly.
okay.
Questions, comments?
Yeah, actually, I think we had this as an item to add before, even before the request was made. I think we were.
Right, we
planning
had
on
been
putting
talking about it. Right.
Mm-hmm, yep, so.
And the TDD has a board meeting scheduled next Tuesday, I think it is.
All right, very good.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right,
I think you're done with me for the moment.
I think so. Moving on, we are ready for Council Bill 069.
Council Bill 069, a resolution approving an agreement for emergency shelter facilities between the City of Harrisonville and the American Red Cross, authorizing the city administrator to sign the agreement and establishing an effective date.
So in case of a disaster, it's been requested by the Red Cross that they be able to utilize the North Park Activity Center and the Community Center. We were in discussions on this prior to a training session that took place back in September that Alderman Bowman was a part of. Because of the disasters that occurred in Texas and Florida, this slowed down the process. But we're now at a point that we've reached an agreement to sign up now if we are going to do this in the future, instead of waiting until the disaster occurs and we have an agreement. The agreement has been hammered out, we've come to some understanding, and our attorneys have a chance to review it and approve it. And so we're bringing these to you for approval, so that we can put this in motion if it ever happens. We hope it never does.
Question for you, Mr. Welch. I don't see an expiration date on here. Is it a renewable contract year by year, or how long does it last?
We did not put an end date on it. That wasn't something that was included. It was in perpetuity until both sides agree that they don't want to continue.
Never know when disasters will hit, do you?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
Okay, I have a motion from Alderman Dickerson,
Second.
second from Alderman Reese. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Council Bill 069 becomes Resolution R041. Council Bill 070.
Council Bill 070, resolution to authorize the city administrator to enter into an agreement between the City of Harrisonville, Missouri and Mid-America Regional Council, MARC, relating to the Regional Household Hazardous Waste Collection Program for fiscal year 2018.
This is something that we do yearly, that we share with Pleasant Hill, and this year we're going to be the collection site. This is for hazardous household waste, and this is, you cannot throw this stuff into the regular trash. This is the opportunity, this is one opportunity that they have locally to drop it off. June or July. Ronnie, when do we normally do it?
Mark will decide that for us. We have a meeting every year, and they just try to hash it out then.
Okay.
You never know.
But there's also 2 drop-off sites, one in Kansas City, one in Lee Summit, that residents can utilize for free. So that's also part of this.
Okay. All right.
By the way, the cost to participate is $10,544.10. That's part of what that dollar addition that we add onto the trash pays for.
How does that compare with previous years?
A little bit more, but it didn't seem significant. I think it was $10,200 last year.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Miller. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Council Bill 070 becomes Resolution R042. Council Bill 071.
Council Bill 071, a resolution of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, to authorize the city administrator to execute a purchase agreement with Midway Ford for a 2018 Ford F-550 forestry chipper truck for the electric department and tree department in an amount not to exceed $70,299.20.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. The chipper truck is basically, it's an electric version of a dump truck. This is when they pull the chipper behind and clean up the limbs and all, it fills the back of this truck. It's currently 13 years old. This year we put approximately $8,000 worth of repairs into it. So it's time to push it on down the road. This is a budgeted expense. It was originally budgeted at $65,000. We did some preliminary costing, and we knew we were gonna be a little bit light on that now. So what we're asking is $70,299.20. And that is the least expensive of all of them. We do have money to cover the overage.
Will we be able to get rid of the old one?
We'll get rid of it on Purple Wave. I expect to get somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 or $7,000 out of it at least. It is a big truck and it's a nice bed.
Did about cover the extra.
It'll cover the extra. But it's something that's planned for in our income anyway.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Alderman Dickerson and a second from Alderman Reese. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And Council Bill 071 becomes Resolution R 043. Council Bill 072, you're welcome.
Council Bill 072, a resolution authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement with Mockin Ford for the purchase of one 2018 Ford Transit Connect cargo van for the Animal Control Department at a price not to exceed $25,635.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Board of Aldermen. Before you tonight is the purchase of a replacement vehicle, replacement van for the Animal Control Department. The 2017 budget has $31,000, which is the donation fund. That's where that's coming from. Donations received throughout the years for the Animal Control Shelter. We're going to use that to purchase a new van. They're currently driving a 2002 Dodge van, panel van. It's quite old and rusting out, and they would like to replace it. We're going to get something a little bit smaller, still can benefit them, but they will also be able to drive this when they go to work conferences and things like that. We went to the state bid, which is Mockin Ford, and they give us an estimate of $25,635, and we're requesting to move forward with that purchase. Answer any questions?
Any questions?
Motion.
Motion to approve from Alderman Turner
Second?
and a second from Alderman Bowen. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Council Bill 072 becomes Resolution R 044.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Council Bill 073.
Council Bill 073, a resolution of the Harrisonville Board of Aldermen authorizing the city administrator to include and execute amendment number 5 to the city's contract with Burns and McDonnell.
Good evening. This is our engineering contract for the water treatment plant. Through the course of design, we had some overages that we had in some small redesigns happening and changes and whatnot. Part of this also comes from some of the delays in SRF. But basically, we're about $140,000 short to finish construction phase engineering, which will include shop drawing submittal approvals. It'll include inspections to make sure that the building conforms with the plans. And various meetings that we will need them at. It'll also include some of the training for the operators. But I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Do I have any further questions?
And I have Jeff Klein here if you do. He says he knows everything about everything, so.
I've heard that. I heard that. I heard it from him, but I've heard that.
I know people who know everything about everything.
That works. All right.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion from Alderman Dickerson
Second.
and a second from Alderman Milner. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Council Bill 073 becomes Resolution R 045.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Council Bill 074.
First reading, Council Bill 074, an ordinance of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into a settlement agreement with TracFone Wireless and establishing an effective date.
There's a class action lawsuit against TracFone. Harrisonville decided not to participate in that. There was settlement in that class action, and we were notified that we could participate. We weren't going to get as much as the other jurisdictions, but that we could get something back. They've settled on $24,384 as the taxes owed. Our attorney's fees would be $6,096, but we're still money ahead. So I would recommend that we go forward with this.
Free money, huh?
Well, money we were owed, but
Yeah.
So how much maybe we would have gotten if we would not have opted out?
I don't know.
More.
More.
Make a motion.
We have to, this is an ordinance, so we have to suspend the ruling, have a motion to suspend the ruling and move Council Bill 074 to a second reading.
Further discussion, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Before we vote on these three ordinances before us, I would like to ask the city attorney what his legal opinion was regarding the number of votes required to pass an ordinance in Harrisonville.
My legal opinion is that if there is a vacant seat, 4 of 7 is a majority and is legal to approve an ordinance.
And we're still waiting for your written legal opinion on that, Mr. Attorney.
I have submitted that to the city administrator, and it is set for a closed hearing.
And why is that a topic for a closed hearing when it's already been discussed in an open hearing, open session?
There's a difference between discussing the conclusion and discussing the reasoning. And the only thing that I'm aware of that's been discussed, other than with the city administrator, has been the conclusion.
So regardless of what state statute says, regardless of what our city ordinance says, which states that an ordinance must be passed by a majority of the elected members of the board, you disregard that?
I do not. And in fact, in the closed session, I'll explain my reasoning for that. I accept the language of the ordinance, but as I said, unless a majority of the board wants to waive privilege, it's really a privileged discussion of a legal reasoning as opposed to the conclusion. The conclusion is that 4 out of 7 is a majority and it's sufficient to pass an ordinance.
And that's your conclusion, correct?
That is my conclusion.
And it will be
Even though we are
supported.
a board of 8.
We can yes, because you're not a board of 8 right now.
We are an elected board of 8.
That's right.
We're not having a discussion about, like you said, what the conclusion is there. You get the details, and that's how we're going to proceed. Unless somebody wants to make a motion, you want to vote to do it openly. So, that's what
I just feel that the discussion started in open session at our October 16th meeting. We asked for the city
You.
attorney's,
you asked.
fine, I asked for the city attorney's written legal opinion. He assured me that he would provide that to the entire board.
And you will get it.
Well, you would think you would get it before the next vote. So if we can move that to open session, I would move that we move it to open session.
I will not vote for open session.
Well, is that a motion?
That is a motion.
I seconded.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a second to move that to an open meeting. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Do I need a roll call on that, or just a?
I would suggest a roll.
Okay, I need a roll call on whether or not to do that, please.
I have a question.
Okay, you want to have the question before we do
Yeah.
that? Okay?
Yeah, what's the difference between, open versus closed? Just.
Well, the difference is when I give legal advice
Right.
to the city under the Sunshine Law, that is a privileged communication and is confidential and should be done in closed session. If I say what I conclude, the proper way for the board to conduct their business, that's an open discussion because the board is operating. So I concluded in the prior meeting that 4 out of 7 was sufficient. What I did was go back and review it, and I've confirmed that in my mind, and that reasoning will, in discussion, I suggested to be in closed session because it is a discussion of legal principles and advice to the board of a legal nature.
Then if it's legal advice to the board, I think that it should be held in open session where the people that are in the audience can also have the opportunity to hear that conclusion. I have our code, which is,
Alderman Bowman, we have a motion whether or not to do that. In order to do it, it's going to require a vote of the board. So reading that is kind of.
I'm just pointing out, it's part of our code as well as state statute.
What's that about?
That no ordinance shall be.
Okay, we
passed.
all know what the ordinance says. What we ask for is an interpretation of what that ordinance means. And the attorney, who is the legal expert, none of us are qualified to interpret ordinances. He's given his conclusion. He's going to tell you how he reached his conclusion. You have asked for him to provide his conclusion in an open meeting. We have a motion, we have a second. We're going to have a roll call. We'll vote. If it passes, he will give it here. If it doesn't, it'll be done in the back room. That's how this works. So reading the ordinance is not going to change that. So unless there's any further questions, then I would ask for the roll call, please.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I haven't read the ordinance. Is it printed someplace we can look at it? I mean, I know it's in my book at home, but.
I mean, we can have it back there. I mean, the word for word of the ordinance. I mean, that.
I have it right here.
I mean, the reading will not change. I mean, to me, it does not change whether or not the opinion is read out loud. So.
What was that? David? What was that?
All this blabbing going on.
Okay.
Let's get to the vote.
Unless somebody has a question about what we're voting on, we need the roll call, please.
Alderman Bowman,
And this is to have it in open session.
If you vote aye, it's to
And
have
just
it in open
clarifying
session.
that.
There you go.
Aye.
Alderman Bockelman,
No.
Alderman Reese,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Dickerson,
Nay.
Alderman Long,
Nay.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Okay. 4-3. So I guess if you want to proceed to read.
Let me pull it out of my book. I'll be back.
I'd like to point out before it's read that I don't get to vote. Had I did get to vote, my vote would have been nay, because I believe that what you have given as your interpretation is the appropriate way to handle this per the way city government is handled.
At this time, Happy, I would suggest that you pass that out. I would also indicate that I asked a second attorney to provide, that sometimes does work through me for the city, to also look at this. He came to the same conclusion that I did, that 4-3 is enough. He kind of comes at it from a little bit different manner than I do.
Was that Daniel Fowler?
That was Mr. Fowler.
Thank you.
I was going to go through that with regards to this. In my legal opinion, what I look at is, I include a summary of this, of the statute and the ordinances that are relevant, I think, to the opinion. I also did some research independent of Mr. Fowler. We both looked for whether there is either binding or persuasive, and I'm going to summarize this rather than read the entire letter, but I will get to my analysis here in a moment. Is binding precedent would be the Missouri Western District Court of Appeals or the Missouri Supreme Court, because the city of Harrisonville and the county it sits in are within the Western District's boundaries. Persuasive precedent would be a decision in the Missouri Southern District, the Eastern District, or some other state. Now, I did not look at others for cases in other states, but I did look, I did more than a dozen different searches, probably 20 different word searches to try to find a case what we consider to be on point or had a holding on this particular issue. And a holding in the court case means the court determines a point of law that's pivotal in its decision of the matter at hand. You will find many cases where the court will spend pages upon pages. When I was in law school, I read one case, probably had 18 pages of the court discussing various things, and in the last paragraph they said, but none of that's relevant, this is the real issue. So that's the kind of thing you will find in case law when you do legal research. I found no case, Mr. Fowler found no case directly on point. The other way, which if you don't find a case on point, is you interpret a statute from some following construction principles. One of those could be What's the literal plain meaning, if that's apparent? Does the proposed interpretation permit the spirit and purpose of the ordinance to be fulfilled? Does the interpretation allow the section to work logically with other code sections or state statutes? So, considering those rules of construction, and then the wording of the ordinance itself, when you look at the plain language of 79-130 in code section 110.8080, it is not clear or apparent with respect to what a majority means when a vacancy is on the Board of Aldermen. Okay? You have a vacant seat. What does that mean? Now, I did reference 79.280, which I'll discuss here in a minute. If that's a situation where there is a vacancy and 4 of 7 by state law is considered a majority. So when I looked at it, if you look at a situation where all 8 seats are full, then a majority of those seats, of those 8, which is a simple majority, not a supermajority, is what is necessary to pass an ordinance. So it is logical that if I'm going to read the ordinance in a logical way, and I have to assume that the legislature intended the ordinance to work for the city, even in a case where there's a vacancy on the board. 4 of 7 is a simple majority. 5 of 7 is a supermajority. The original statute, the original ordinance with all 8 is a simple majority. So it follows logically that 4 of 7, a simple majority, is sufficient. If you look further at RSMO section 79.280, which provides a mechanism for replacing a vacant seat on the board. Under that ordinance, the ordinance specifically says that a majority means a majority of the remaining members on the board. And I think the logic of that is that that vacant seat down there is not a member of the Board of Aldermen. It's a vacant seat. That seat was not elected. Regardless that there was someone elected there before, that's a different discussion. But the question is, you have a vacancy, and is that empty seat qualified as a board member to be counted towards a vote? Mr. Fowler's interpretation breaks the ordinance and the state statute down into 2 parts. One, is there a person elected, and is that person a member of the Board of Aldermen? Well, in this case, an empty seat is not elected to the board, and an empty seat is certainly not a member of the Board of Aldermen. Therefore, when looking at both of ours and considering that there's no state statute that says the interpretation should be different, it makes logical sense that the ordinance should be read in a manner that the original was read in order for the city to do business. And that was not a supermajority, but a simple majority. And in this case, there are 7 members of the Board of Aldermen. There's not 8. That empty seat is not a member of the Board of Aldermen. There are 7, and a majority of 7 is 4.
All right. Well, there you have it.
Now, I will note that in my opinion, I did not list, I talked about binding precedent, persuasive. I did not make citations for that. I know that as the general, all attorneys know that. If you want me to go back and look for citations, I don't know that those things are critical to the opinion I give, but I just mentioned the fact that I did not provide citations because that meant there was less cost to the city.
So John, just as curiosity, since we're kind of into the ordinances, is there anything in our ordinances that say when a seat should or responsibly should be filled? And if at certain point, if that seat is not filled, then before the next general election, would that seat not become available for a general vote?
If you look at the back of the opinion, 79.280 is the ordinance that speaks to filling the vacancy. The mayor shall cause a special meeting of the Board of Aldermen to convene, where a successor to vacant office shall be selected by appointment by the mayor with advice and consent of the majority of the remaining members of the Board of Aldermen. Then it goes on, to other things, talks about seats that aren't elected, etc. But essentially, that's all it says. So I'm not aware of any ordinance or policy of the city that gives you a specific time frame for that to be done, or says that if it's this close, you will have, I've seen some cities that will say that if it's more than so many months before the next election, they call for a special election. Most fourth-class cities don't do that because of the expense. They generally provide that the vacancy is filled by the appointment by the mayor with the advice and consent of the board. Now, some big cities sometimes, or states, may have different rules with regards to the time before the next election. But as I say, because it's very costly to order up an election, especially if the election is just you, just this city to order an election as opposed to being one of the general election possibilities in the future, it's still a cost to the city. So, as I said, most fourth-class cities, and there could be some that do it differently. I think most of them do it this way, which follows state statute.
Question, Mr. Hoffman?
Assuming Mrs. Bowman is right, if for some reason 4 board members would leave, and there was only 4 board members, how would you pass an ordinance?
Well, again, yes, you could. If there's vacancies, they don't count.
Well, like I said, assuming Mrs. Bowman was right.
He's saying
Yes,
if you
assuming, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I apologize.
hypothetically, if that was-
Hypothetically,
there you go.
hypothetically, if Ms. Bowman is correct, then if there were only 4 left, you would never have a majority.
You would never be able to pass an ordinance.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it can't be that way.
And that's what
You wouldn't have a quorum either.
Right. You would need to take your right to appoint a person to that position.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem with reading, sometimes trying to read things almost too literal from the standpoint that it leads you to conclusions that are impractical, and the law is supposed to be practical. The purpose of the state statutes were not created to make it difficult for fourth-class cities to operate. They were created to be interpreted in a logical manner that allows a city to continue doing business even if there's a vacancy. Because, for example, under Mr. Bachman's suggestion there, if there were 5 left only, that would be a unanimous vote every time to do everything. And if there were less than 5, you couldn't vote at all. So you get in to a position, I suppose, if you want to take it to an extreme, I suppose you could interpret an empty seat being a negative vote and then move forward on that basis, which means if you had 7 left and you had 4 versus 3, then the mayor would break the tie. I don't, so I mean, there's a lot of different ways, and the problem is that the statute doesn't, or neither the statute nor the code really states what happens when there's a vacancy. There's no interpretation or definition of what majority means in those circumstances, and no case law. So as the city attorney, I look at it in the manner that I described in the legal opinion, from a logical and practical way of what that vacancy means.
All right. We have the legal opinion. I believe we had the motion. I don't remember who made it and who seconded it. Did you get that down, Randy, for the? No, there's a mo, we've had a motion and a second to move it to a second reading.
Yes.
Alderman Turner, who seconded it? Because I had a first and a second.
I'll
We had a
second it.
first and a second.
I'll second it.
I think it was actually, I think, Alderman Reese, you seconded it, did you not?
I think so.
I think so, yeah. Alderman Reese seconded, this was to move to a second reading, and then we paused for discussion. I knew we had a first and a second because I called for discussion. All right, so I had, this is to suspend the ruling and move Council Bill 073, or excuse me, 74 to a second reading. All right, I need a roll call.
Did she second it, Randy? That's what she's asking.
I don't remember seconding that.
I wouldn't have allowed discussion until we had, since I
somebody
had,
did.
I had a motion made, I had a
Yeah,
second, and
somebody did.
I'm pretty sure you, because you, I remember you, he motioned, now somebody said, yeah, you seconded it. It was simply for the motion, it's the motion to suspend the ruling, it's not the actual ordinance, and then we stopped for discussion, so.
Pardon? The first time around, I caught Matt, but I didn't catch you to the second because you started the discussion.
If it's wrong, the tape will catch it, so we can always amend it,
Okay.
we can amend it if it's wrong, how's that
Okay,
sound?
I just forgot.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, all right, we're ready.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
Alderman Bockelman,
Aye.
Alderman Bowman,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Reese,
Aye.
Alderman Dickerson,
Aye.
Alderman Long.
Aye. All right, second reading, please, of Council Bill 074.
Second reading, Council Bill 074, an ordinance of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into a settlement agreement with TracFone Wireless and establishing an effective date.
All right, I need a roll call again.
Alderman Bowman,
Aye.
Alderman Bockelman,
Aye.
Alderman Dickerson,
Aye.
Alderman Reese,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Long,
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
All right, and Council Bill 074 will become ordinance 03419. Council Bill,
I want to apologize.
you remember?
I forgot we were talking about trash phones. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Second that.
It's all right. We got it clarified, we're good. Council Bill 075.
Council Bill 075, an ordinance of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, establishing a new rate for residential solid waste collection services.
All right, this is first
First
reading.
reading.
All right. Anybody have questions? I guess
Yeah, this is the established amount that we're going to charge and has to be put into ordinance form. We're still working on the contract, should have that finalized tomorrow, get it to our contractor and have something for you at the next meeting. We were at 1080 for that's what you're paying now, plus our part of it is 1350. It's our
We charge the residents $12.49.
1249, okay. So
So-
now it's going up to 1380 and we're gonna charge 1480.
because of that dollar,
Right, so it's 70-some cents less than what we currently charge residents.
which
Our part, yeah, our part.
and I'm sure nobody, I'm sure a lot of people realize I'm not always a big fan of having to raise rates, but in this case, it's, with the trash service, it's, you set your rate according to the contract, and this is what, we approved the bid, and like I say, we know the dollar applies to the household waste, some of the administrative charge for having the bills, a dollar, an extra dollar for all the other things that go into it, plus it balances our refuse fund, which is something that was in the state audit that, and our normal auditor has also pointed out, we needed to have our refuse fund balanced out, so we're accomplishing all those things. Unfortunately, it does result in a little bit of an increase, but from what I hear, the service that we're going to get will be worth what we're paying.
Time will tell.
You're exactly right, that's all.
We'll keep our fingers
Roll the
crossed.
dice, but yeah, this is where we're at, so that's why there's an increase. Alderman Turner.
Does this have to be passed soon, or,
It's part of budget.
Yeah, so we
need to suspend?
could suspend the ruling, in fact, unless somebody has a reason, something come up, we could suspend the ruling and pass it tonight. Alderman Bowman, you get
I just have
chime
a
in?
question,
Okay.
just a question. I'm fine with voting on the rate, but I want to make sure, you say you're still working on the contract, I want to make sure that this $14.80 that we're charging our citizens for trash pickup includes weekly yard waste pickup.
That was bi-weekly.
No, and the second notice that we sent out was for weekly rates.
Right.
And this was the amount that they sent back, that they would charge for those weekly yard wastes. It's $13.80.
So that will not change. What we have now, I believe the service stays the same as what we have. We're paying more, yes, you're paying more for the same service, it's a different company.
That's
Was
correct.
there some recycling involved in there?
Yeah, I think we also get everybody will get a new trash can and a new recycling bin on the wheels.
So that's an addition, that's nice.
Well, I think you could always get the recycle bin, it just wasn't always, you had to actually ask to go get it. Now, everybody will get it, whether they use it or not is up to them, but I think he made the comment, if you build it, they will come, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that in the draft contract that the city administrator and I have worked on, it provides for weekly pickup of the trash receptacle recycling, and I believe up to 12 bags of yard waste on a weekly basis, and that's
52 weeks of the year.
it's written into the draft agreement, and I believe the 12 was in the RFP as well. So since the people responding, the potential contractors responding, were aware of that being written into the RFP.
I just want to make sure that it was understood that what we were charging our residents for included weekly yard waste, because we're all still hearing that from citizens. The other thing I wanted to ask is, I have a copy of the original contract with Mr. Pesic, which states that the expiration date of this contract is November 30th. And we've been operating on the fact that this contract doesn't go into effect until January. Have we made arrangements with WCA to pick up trash from November 30th through January 1st?
We're working with WCA on that, yeah. They haven't made mention that they have a problem with that, so I think they still enjoy picking up trash in Harrisonville and haven't had an issue with it.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Another month of revenue.
And we weren't caught with no one to pick up our trash. Thank you, that's all.
All right, any further questions or comments? Oh,
I'm sorry.
really?
Respectfully request that you all do waive the rules tonight and move this to second reading, because this amount needs to go into effect with your December bills. You pay for your trash services a month in advance.
Okay.
So the bill that is due December 1st is actually for trash services in January. So we would need to have this passed in order to put those on those bills that go out of here on the 20th of November. If they went out later than that, it wouldn't be an issue, but because our next meeting is not till the 20th, then I would,
There you go, no
again,
pressure.
respectfully ask that.
No pressure.
On a paper motion, let's suspend the rules and move to the second reading.
Second.
A motion from Alderman Turner and a second from Alderman Miller to suspend the ruling and move Council Bill 074 to the second reading, or excuse me, 075 to the second reading. Need a roll call vote on that?
Alderman Bowman.
Aye.
Alderman Bockelman.
Aye.
Alderman Reese.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Dickerson.
Aye.
Alderman Long.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
All right, second reading, please.
Second reading, Council Bill 075, an ordinance of the City of Harrisonville, Missouri, establishing a new rate for residential solid waste collection services.
All right, roll call again, please.
Alderman Dickerson.
Aye.
Alderman Reese.
Aye.
Alderman Long.
Aye.
Alderman Bowman.
Aye.
Alderman Milner.
Aye.
Alderman Turner.
Aye.
And Alderman Bockelman.
Aye.
All right, and Council Bill 075 becomes ordinance 03420. Council Bill 076.
First reading, Council Bill 076, an ordinance adopting an operating budget for the City of Harrisonville, Missouri for fiscal year January 1, 2018 through December 31, 2018.
All right, and this is our first reading for the budget. We typically do not try to suspend ruling on this to give plenty of time for staff to finish updates, and then and usually we hold questions or comments unless it was detrimental to when we have second reading. So unless there's something detrimental we need to add to this, we are done with our agenda items.
A detrimental comment.
Okay.
No, I just would like, since we're putting this to second reading, I would like us to think about one thing.
Okay.
actually 3 things.
Okay. Now she's doing multiplication.
No.
We're not, she's just
I
wanting,
said something for you to think about.
she's leaving us thoughts
You said
for,
before we
before the second reading,
I want to think,
which that is normal too, so
Yes.
you are on track, so.
we've put in a huge chunk of money for sidewalks, we put a huge chunk of money in for streets. Not as much in for the stormwater. Would we at all think about taking some of that money, maybe split those 3 evenly? With the amount of devastation we've had this year and the amount of people and the amount of work for, I mean, Rodney said basically that we can give him all this money, but crew cannot handle that kind of work. It would have to be contracted out, basically, correct? If we gave you all that money, Rodney, it would more than likely have, some of it would have to be contracted out
It's all
to be able to
contracted.
get it accomplished.
It's all contracted out.
Yeah,
All that money is contracted out. The operating budget is what we operate on.
okay.
So regardless of what we, I mean, just
Right.
regardless of what it
Yes,
is, it's contracts, okay, all right,
But
good
I'm
enough.
just thinking, you know, it's a big chunk of money. You know, maybe think about taking those 3 amounts, split it out evenly to those 3 departments. The other thing I'd really like for you to think about is, if not splitting it out, maybe taking some somewhere and put it into Judy's locker rooms. Somehow, some portion of a locker room, some kind of something, so that our officers do not have to drive here in their uniforms. They can actually change their clothes when they get here and take a shower when they're dirty before they head back home. That's my
It's a
thought.
matter of safety.
It is a matter of, correct. That's
All
my
right.
thought.
All right,
Question,
yes.
on stormwater, didn't we have a discussion that we weren't really ready to spend a lot of money on that before we had some sort of study done?
Yes, that was.
Mr. Patterson's got his hand up, I'll let him chime in.
We talked about doing a study of the main tributaries in the city. That's something that is too big for us to do with this type of budget. We would be looking for the court. We have dozens of smaller projects, stormwater-wise, that can be done, that won't reflect at all on the overall plan, but they will help residents.
What isn't the bigger stuff, what is causing the flooding issues?
Well, that's what the study will tell us.
So
But
we need to study
even
first.
peripherally around that, you've got so many small things. Our stormwater master plan has basically been put on hold because we haven't had money to put towards the budget. And there's probably 10 to a dozen items in that are already identified that citizens.
Well, I know that the city has done some stormwater projects. And Rodney's been robbed blind over the years. It's time to give Rodney some back.
Well, part of this is all under Rodney's
Well,
court. This is
the
all under
original,
streets.
we used to spend, if you look at all 3 of them, we used to spend, just confirm this, 20,000 on stormwater, we're gonna spend 100,000. So you're spending 5 times what we normally did. We're spending more on roads than what we normally did, and we're spending more on sidewalks and curbs than what we did. We have, I mean, it's no secret, we have fallen behind on our infrastructure maintenance, and we need to be trying to do as much we can to catch up. So you're applying to all those things. I know there's a lot of discussion about creeks and ditches, but, you know, a lot of those are private property that we can't touch, control. You've got to get permission to even go on those. If you get another big rain like we had, it's unlikely anything that we've done is going to prevent a huge rain from, I mean, if it comes like it did, that's why they call it flash flooding. I mean, that's why we want to do the study, to see is there something that is there that we aren't aware of from our
And I
old
do want
plans.
to throw out those 2 big storms we had. More than likely, we will not be able to do anything to stop those. We can make them a little less, but they will always flood with that amount of rain and that amount of time. So what we look at doing is, on these smaller project things, that under the 100-year storm, that we can take care of and help residents.
I mean, it's kind of like, if you put it in perspective, what happened in Houston, there's no way they could ever plan for that amount of rainfall in that short amount of time from that hurricane. There's just no way. I mean, and for us, we're on a smaller scale, but we're just not in a position you could ever fully protect against that type of rain. It's just, I mean, I guess if you had an endless amount of money. All in the bottom?
Did I hear you right in saying that we went from 20,000 a year to 100 on stormwater?
Yes.
So we did increase it.
Yes, we've increased all of them from what we used to spend.
And last year, we didn't spend no money, did we?
On what's going, no, we spent 20,000.
Yeah, 20,000 is our normal annual allocation that you guys will generally give us. For 2017, it's actually 100,000.
Yeah, like sides, curbs and sidewalks is what, usually 90,000.
Yes.
So we've increased all those
Right.
numbers, so,
Okay.
you know.
I would like to go in a plea for that locker room again. The thing of it is, we have all these young men and women that are protecting us, and when they come to work from their homes, in their uniforms, and they get here, they are targets. And I believe, Mr. Hofer, Chief Hofer, hello out there. Didn't you have some figures on police officers that have been shot at in their uniforms coming to and from work in their uniforms?
Not that I recall.
Not that you recall. Okay, then I'm mistaken. I don't know where I heard that one.
TV probably.
Maybe so. But I know that that's a problem. And I know that these guys are, you know, they're putting their lives on the line for us. And all we want to do is give them a place to put their uniforms, to clean up. We're not asking for a spa. We're asking for just regular cleanup facilities for them. How much money was asked for that?
$53,000.
$53,000, and that's a drop considered everything else, so I'm just asking, please consider it.
All right.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add some comments too about stormwater. I attended a meeting with City Administrator Welch and Public Works Director Patterson and met with 4 residents that live over on Megan Drive. Fortunately, the city engineer was with us also. He had done a survey of the infrastructure over there and identified a lot of damaged, missing, and inadequate infrastructure along Megan. And I just feel that we don't need, and just as Mr. Patterson has said, we don't need the master plan study update in order to be able to do those kinds of repairs. I think that is the responsible thing for the city to do is to pay attention to the loss and the expense that our citizens have experienced through these last 2 rain events and address those by putting some additional money into stormwater. So I concur with my colleagues. I think that $750,000 could be spent in a more responsible way. I'd like to propose putting $250,000 to the asphalt overlay program. The recommendation was $200,000, so we're granting more. I'd like to suggest $250,000 for the sidewalk and curb program, where the recommended amount was $90,000, so that's giving that program more. I'd like to suggest $53,000 to be taken out of that $750,000 for the police locker room. And that would leave a balance of $197,000 for stormwater projects, in addition to the $100,000 that's in the budget, for a total for stormwater of $297,000.
Okay, we had the work session meetings, and we had a show of hands who wanted to approve what items. Unless I see a show of hands, anybody want to change those amounts? At this point, we had that meeting. It's what was done at the work session, what was approved. Either that or it goes in the budget and you just don't vote for it if you don't like it. I mean, I don't see.
I don't know what the work session. I don't know that the work session was necessarily binding. I think until the board approves the budget, they have a right to change it, instruct staff to.
Right, what I'm saying is what we do in the work session is basically give how many believe this way, because obviously if the majority believe one way, it's obvious that's what they would support in the vote, so.
Well, you're trying to get direction, I
Correct,
assume, to
correct.
staff, so the
Correct.
staff knows.
So unless somebody wants to change the direction, I mean, so.
I'd like to see us divvy that up just a little bit better.
I mean, as it stands, we are spending 5 times the amount we normally do on stormwater. And Mr. Patterson just said, yes, we can do projects, that 100,000 is gonna do more than we normally do. And even if we do those, the loss suffered by residents, we're not going to be able, if that hits us again next year of the 500-year flood, we very likely wouldn't have done the improvements anyway at that point. We're not going to be able to prevent it, maybe.
Right. What I'm
lessen it.
saying though is even once we get review with the Army Corps of Engineers, there's nothing more than likely that we can do as a city that will do an impact of anything over the 100-year
Correct.
storm.
Okay, so, yeah,
I would like to point out that Rodney's street program is the one that is needing the most repairs. It needs the most attention and money put toward it. And he's commented in the last 2 years in the budget, how far behind and how long it would take to catch up. He needs it more than anybody.
well, the stormwater also falls under Rodney's, is that correct? Mary, that falls under the
Yes, it
street,
does.
so, I mean, it's all, the money's all going to street, and we're suggesting how we wanted that divvied up, so,
We didn't multiply the curb and sidewalks by 5 either.
no. Nor did we,
Percentage-wise,
yeah, percentage-wise, yes, you're right, we increased it by the largest percentage, yes, so. I mean, obviously, I think the roads and the curbs and sidewalks, and those are, I mean, your sidewalks are also a safety issue. You have sidewalks that are broken and have cracks that people can trip. I mean, there's, you know, my old sidewalk got replaced. I mean, it had some chips, and I'm surprised I never broke a tooth as a kid riding my bike through there, but it was that way for years, so. So unless anybody has, suggestion, I'd say when we come back, we can have a further discussion at the second reading. We've got the comments and the food for thought, and I think we're good with the agenda. We can have further discussion on the second reading. All right, Alderman committee reports. Alderman Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Welch, are we planning on having any kind of public meetings available for our citizens once we make the change in the waste collection company so that they know what to expect? Are we extending customer service to them in any way like that, just to let them know that we've made the change, that they will no longer have the blue recycle bins, they'll now have the recycle bin on wheels, the number of parcels of yard waste they can put out, those types of things, that the day of collection is probably going to change. The fact that we're not going to have holiday pickups now. I mean, are we going to be communicating that in some way to our citizens so that they understand? And
There is a section of the contract that is up to the contractor to do that. We hope to work in concert with it. And we'll put it in the water bill, put it on the water bill, electric bill, put it in the insert. I don't see us having public meetings on something like that.
I just think we should do everything we can do to make this be a successful thing.
Well, I think.
And that comes from education and information.
Right.
Well,
when we did this in Festus, because we instituted the push cards, it was a lot of just sending out information in the mail, and then just putting it, in this case, putting on Facebook, putting on Twitter. You're not gonna hit everybody, they're gonna ask you why you didn't tell me about it, but we'll do the best that we can to get that information out.
I spoke with CJ up in Pleasant Hill, because they went through this same thing when they switched, and he said actually both companies, it was very seamless. They did a fantastic job. So these two have worked, the fact they've worked together in that same situation, my understanding is they'll come around and pick up the trash, say it's your last day on their contract, they're going to pick your trash up, and there's a truck that follows that picks the can up, and then municipal, either before or just right after that, will be delivering the new can. So you'll lose the can you have, and you'll get the new ones. And then, as far as the day, I don't know yet. I mean, I don't know if they'll work that out. I don't remember if my day changed. It's been so long since we changed companies.
So they'll have to give me a route, a map showing the routes before they start.
I believe where I used to live growing up as a kid, when we changed companies, Monday was always our day, and that never changed. I think but Pleasant Hill's experience has been a very seamless transition, so I feel pretty good about the transition, so let's throw that out there. You have anything else to? Okay. Alderman Bachman.
I find it quite frustrating that toward the beginning of when I got elected, I was working with Harrisonville Villas and our attorney on what ended up being a good agreement. And Mrs. Bowman took it upon herself to state that she was going to watch the attorney bills and make sure that this money was responsibly spent, that it was not, in effect, wasted. And this display by Mrs. Bowman, in effect, wasted our attorney's bills. And my understanding, it is not limited to just this subject. Anyway, I find it frustrating that Mrs. Bowman has basically accused me of wasting our attorney bills, when now I think she has wasted more than, I don't talk to you that often.
You've been calling John?
Amen to that.
You've been calling John, Judy?
Well, this whole thing was, he's got a bill based on what she said. Doesn't matter if you called her, it's still a waste of our attorney's time.
It's a waste of attorney's time.
It's a-
Just keep this in order.
It is in order, and that's, you're giving your opinion, and I.
Sure, but she's
yeah.
done.
I agree.
This is Reese's turn.
Agree. All agrees.
Gee, it's been a really nice evening. You know,
Hey, you seconded the motion, don't forget.
I did. You're right, I did. I think the frustrating thing for me about being an alderman is I sit here and I think, and I look at these people, every one of us, and I think we're all here for one reason, and that's to better our city. And we all seem to go about it in different ways, and not only do we go about it in different ways, but having been an educator, we're doing it like 8th graders, you guys. We gotta stop this, we gotta start working together. I mean, that's gotta be the most important thing, that's where we're gonna make the most improvement to this city. I guess that's coming from the mother or the principal in me or something, but I go from being so proud of this group to being so utterly ashamed of us. So, there we go.
All right. Alderman Miller. Microphone, please. Thank you.
There's just so much to say. Number one, I'd like for us to, yes, I think our attorney fees are a little out of whack right now. Judy did ask for things, but, you know, just like the fact that our attorney had to write the waiver that we voted on, I don't know why that was our responsibility as a city as opposed to the people who wanted to not do their street. So that did take up a lot of time, Brad, for the attorney fees, just point blank. The other thing I would like to do, though, is since we've come to the discussions about the majority votes, I would like to ask that we be cautious and be thinking about filling that seat so that each and every ward is represented equally. And if by chance we can't come across that by April, possibly we need to make sure that that gets on the ballot so that we can vote to have someone sit in that chair. So that we do have our 8 elected seats.
We'll try to avoid that because of the cost, as far as not having it.
Well, it's kind of redundant.
All right, Alderman Dickerson. Microphone, please.
I just have one thing to say. I had a person give me a rumor today that was going around that was very disturbing, and the rumor was that the city had received FEMA money to go ahead and replace the dam. And the residents of Ward 4 that got flooded out hadn't got their money yet. So I was bothered by that. I came and talked to Happy about it today, and I'd like you to tell him, because you can say it better than I can, what you told me.
Well, we have not reached that magic number where FEMA was declared, or this area was declared a disaster area, so there's no FEMA money available. I mean, we have not received anything, and never received notification on that, so I don't think any FEMA money was distributed. We're working with the Corps of Engineers right now on Lake Luna. It'll probably be into next year, but we're trying to get their involvement so that we can try to get grants through the Corps of Engineers and try to make improvements to the dam and spillway area.
The other option would be take spillway out, fill the lake in, so, I mean, that's.
I would just like to make sure that we all understand that what we say to the public sometimes can get mixed up, or the meaning might not come across. And so when we're talking about these things, we should always make sure that we know what we're talking about.
Alderman Long.
Oh, I'm good.
Alderman Turner.
Well, this last week been pretty quiet, so they must have been running good in the city. Week ago Saturday, the Parks and Recs had their Ahmed Hay rides, which we did get ventured out there. A little chilly that night, but the crew was awesome. They did a fabulous job. Had 42 trailers, so I mean, that's a big turnout and stuff. So everyone had fun, but everyone was cold.
Good job, Chris.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Welch?
A couple of things, and one thing will be covered by Mr. Patterson. I put a questionnaire at your seat from the Missouri Extension Office. It talks about cultural heritage and history, and being that I'm not from here and didn't grow up here, there may be some information that you can put into that and pass it back to me. And I'm gonna do this at Ludwig Square and other groups, so that I can get some input on what are the significant things about Cass County, Harrisonville, that we can use for tourism. And that's one area that we can look at, trying to bring people in. You get the tourism, you get the tourism dollars. If we're going to do improvements on the square, this is something else that can play into that. So if you get time, fill it out and send it back to me, I appreciate it.
We were approached last Friday by NPUA. NPUA is who we purchase our electric through. It's a group of, I don't remember how many cities, like 40 cities. Basically, they've been approached by FEMA and the Virgin Islands. They're looking for crews to go over to the islands to work on power. There's been nothing official at this point, but what they were looking at doing was doing some sort of 30-day contract for service over there. Which in reality, once the 30-day contract there, you're probably more like 50 days, because it's a substantial barge ride from Florida to the islands and back. They were asking if the city was interested in sending a crew and a truck at this point. We do mutual aid all the time. This is well and above what we've ever been asked to do. I have some reservations on sending 2 of our 5 people away for a month. We could probably cover it, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up what's been asked of us. If you have any comments, I'll be willing to listen to that, but that's something
Say that those 2 are gone, let's say theoretically we sent them, would we also be sending a truck, or do we just have?
We'd be sending a truck.
Okay. What happens if we have an event here, I mean, we're getting into cold weather, we get an ice storm, which obviously those 2 men, if we have an ice storm, we're gonna need more help, but how do we cover for the 2 that are out if we have an issue?
I asked that question to Mike Conyers, NPUA,
Mm-hmm.
and he says he can help cover us on that.
Mhm.
So he doesn't seem to think that there's a problem for us.
I mean, because I just watched, we were just watching 60 Minutes, and they were showing Puerto Rico, and I mean, it's just, I mean, and granted, whoever's been in charge down there, it sounds like there was some, things were not being taken care of. But that's not the residents down there. That's not their fault. They think that everything's functioning as it's supposed to. That island is destroyed. I mean, everything. I mean, you look at the terrain, what they have available, and it is. He's right. The barge ride. I mean, it's not like you can just drive some semis down there. It's a mess. So
It's a 5-day barge ride.
Yeah, and so I think everybody has come to the realization the only way anything's going to happen is what they're asking now is people saying, you know what, we're going to help our fellow humans, and so I love the idea. I just want to be sure we would not be.
Well, and our foreman has asked to go, and I've pretty much decided I don't think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only one with any real tenure.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
For sure, we'd much rather have our foreman here to help with. Granted, I'd love to see somebody going to that. I mean, that would be a neat place to go and do some work, and I'd love to see somebody with seniority, but responsibility goes with the job.
I will say, if this does come together and we send a crew, the city will be paying about $70,000 that will get reimbursed, but the city will be paying that amount before reimbursement.
Out of the electric fund, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Another thing, generally speaking, fall and winter, I know it seems odd, that's not really when we have our ice storms. Our ice storms are generally in the spring.
And have others expressed interest in going, or just him?
No, I have at least 3 people that would like to go, so.
The tree crew?
Okay.
No, we will not allow that.
Okay.
We have our own trees that are behind us, so we'll cover that. Is there any real opposition to looking into this if they call?
I mean, I think the big thing is the coverage. As long as they think we can be covered, I mean, like I said, it's gonna take people all over pitching in and helping, and I mean, it's a small part for us, but I mean, you know, it's not those people's fault that a tropical storm came through and hammered them, so.
Yeah, just so we don't jeopardize our own citizens.
And I trust the NQA, if they say they can help cover us, I trust them to be good on that. That's part of being in a co-op, it's kind of.
Yes, they've been very good to us in the past. I have another little thing with the water treatment plant construction. I told you that I would let you know about change orders, big or small. I actually have a change order for Mr. Welch. It's it's 11 different things all combined onto one change order, but it's in an amount of less than $5,000. So.
Those things happen. Okay. All right, anything else? All right, well, that's my turn. I wanted to send a thank you to the teachers. I believe they helped our Parks Department. This was it Friday, correct? Was the in-service day? They did some painting and working out at the parks.
Yeah, they did 2 projects. They painted Shelter 9 and picnic tables there, and also helped us put up Christmas lights.
Very good, very good. So a big thank you to them. I also know the teachers were out at Casco, obviously why I know that, but I think it's great that the teachers get out and get to do this. It gets them out in the community, and it obviously provides a big service to those departments. Want to mention we attended a couple weeks ago the MML Westgate dinner, and we managed to pull off the attendance award for most people in attendance. So I don't know, did the plaque get hung up somewhere yet, or?
No, still waiting on getting it back.
Okay, okay. So we're, getting our name engraved. All right, so anyway, that's kind of something they do at each of the meetings, is the city's in attendance. Whoever has the most in attendance gets to take the traveling award home. So we got to bring the traveling award home. So it was, we got to hear from a municipal judge up there talking about some of the changes that have hit the city governments concerning their courts. It was a good dinner. I want to send a big shout out to both the soccer boys and the football boys. Both are playing. Soccer's on the state. Like we mentioned earlier, football hosts Webb City this Friday. That's always a big game. Webb City is definitely the team to beat every year. Should be a exciting evening. Some of the comments earlier, you know, Alderman Reese, I would be proud of our first discussion on how we handled that. I thought that went very well. I had heard some varying opinions on that throughout the week about asking questions about what were we discussing. I think that went very well, and we were able to get something accomplished. We were able to help her and possibly make some improvements to our current code, which is that's a lot of what needs to happen. Is there's things that are outdated we need to improve. So we did do some improvement. We're all human, we're all going to disagree at times. This job, you will find, sometimes can affect you emotionally, and when it affects you emotionally, sometimes we don't act the way we should. And I would agree that you need to try to keep your emotions in check. This is not a personal thing. This is you're elected to make decisions. You do that based on you are each given the right to make a vote and speak your opinion, and you do just that, and that's really it. I mean, you're not, if not everybody agrees, they don't agree. So, you know, if we agreed on everything absolutely across the board, I think there'd be something wrong. But as far as legal bills go, I haven't looked at the budget, but I will say, compared to the last time I had checked, we were almost about half of what we used to spend with the former attorney on legal fees. And we actually pay a little bit more, slightly more per hour, I believe. So I believe we're getting better quality legal service, and it's less time spent. So overall we're actually spending less money. So, I think Mr. Fairfield has done a great job, and I appreciate his efforts, and, as much as, doesn't matter who, there are times that he is required to step in because it's to make sure we're protected, and it won't matter which alderman. If an alderman has a request that is going to require that, or I have a request, or Mr. Welch has something, or staff has something, that's why we have a city attorney. That's what we are paying him for. But I think you should be cognizant of, when you do make a request, like, to me, if you are requesting documentation that is not pertinent to a discussion and it is publicly accessible, we should not pay somebody to access that information. If you want it, you can get it yourself. I do it all the time. Anyway, with that, Mr. Dickerson, we need a motion from you, please.
I move that the Board of Aldermen go into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the revised state statute, section 610.021, to discuss legal action and any confidential or privileged communications between the city and its attorney.
All right, I'll need a second, please. We have a second from Alderman Long. I'll need a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Turner,
Aye.
Alderman Long,
Aye.
Alderman Dickerson,
Aye.
Alderman Milner,
Aye.
Alderman Reese, Alderman Bachman,
Aye.
and Alderman Bowman.
All right, and we are adjourned to executive. Thank you for coming tonight.